History remembers few transformations as dramatic as that of Omar ibn Al Khattab. His story is not just one of personal change, but of a shift that would echo through centuries, shaping the destiny of nations and the hearts of millions. In the heart of the Arabian Peninsula, at a time when tribal loyalties and ancient customs ruled, Omar stood as a symbol of strength and unwavering conviction. Once the fiercest enemy of Islam, Omar's journey from hatred to leadership changed the course of civilization. He was a man whose very name inspired fear and respect, a man whose opposition to the Prophet Muhammad was legendary, yet within him burned a relentless drive, a passion that, for years, was directed against the very faith he would one day champion. How does a man set out to destroy a faith, only to become its greatest defender? What force could possibly turn the heart of such a formidable adversary? Omar's transformation was not a simple change of mind, but a profound awakening of the soul, a journey from darkness into light. Omar was feared, powerful, and utterly loyal to the Quraysh and their traditions. He was a guardian of the old ways, a protector of his people's honor, and a man who would not hesitate to fight for what he believed was right. When the message of one God threatened his world, his response was rage, a rage that nearly extinguished Islam before it could shine. His anger was not just personal, it was the fury of a society resisting change, of a man defending everything he had ever known. Yet something extraordinary happened. A single night, a single encounter, turned his fury into faith. In the quiet hours, beneath the vast desert sky, Omar's heart was shaken by words he could not ignore, by a truth that pierced through his anger and pride. This is the story of that night, a story of a heart transformed by truth. It is a tale of struggle, revelation, and the power of conviction to change not just a man, but the world around him. Before he was Al-Faruq, the just caliph, he was a persecutor. He was a man feared by many, misunderstood by most, and destined for a greatness he could never have imagined. To understand the hero, we must first meet the man he was. We must walk the streets he walked, feel the weight of his doubts, and witness the fire that drove him, both as an enemy and as a believer. Walk with Omar on the night everything changed forever. Witness the moment when a heart of stone was softened, when a fierce opponent became a pillar of faith, and when history itself was rewritten by the courage to embrace the truth. Long before the rise of Islam, Mecca was a city defined by its wealth, its strategic location, and the powerful families who controlled its bustling trade routes. The city's narrow streets echoed with the sounds of merchants haggling, camels braying, and the daily life of a thriving metropolis. But beneath the surface, Mecca was also a city deeply fractured by tribal rivalries and ancient grudges, where loyalty to one's clan came before all else. At the heart of Mecca stood the Kaaba, a sacred sanctuary that had once represented the worship of a single god. Over generations, however, it had become crowded with hundreds of idols, each one fiercely guarded by a different tribe. The Kaaba was no longer a symbol of unity, but a reflection of the city's divisions. The Quraysh, Mecca's most influential tribe, ruled with an iron grip. Their authority was rooted in tradition, their wealth built on trade, and the annual pilgrimage that brought visitors from across Arabia. They upheld the old ways, fiercely defending the polytheistic beliefs that kept them in power. Into this world of privilege and inequality came Muhammad, a man known for his honesty and compassion. He began to preach a radical message, that there was only one God, and that all people, regardless of tribe or status, deserved justice and mercy. His words sent shockwaves through Meccan society. The powerful feared the loss of their influence, while merchants worried about the impact on trade. The very foundation of Mecca's social order was under threat, yet it was the city's most vulnerable, the slaves, the poor, and those shunned by society, who listened. For them, Muhammad's message was a beacon of hope, promising dignity and a sense of belonging they had never known. Islam offered these early followers a new kind of brotherhood, one that transcended bloodlines and wealth. But to the Quraysh, this new faith was a direct challenge to their authority and traditions. The response from Mecca's elite was swift and merciless. They ridiculed the believers, imposed harsh boycotts, and subjected many to torture and humiliation, hoping to crush the movement before it could grow. But instead of breaking, the faith of the Muslims only deepened. Their unity and resilience became a source of inspiration, drawing more to their cause. Stories of unimaginable suffering spread, like Bilal's torture under the scorching sun, or Sumayya's martyrdom, the first to die for her faith. These tales of sacrifice echoed through the city, fueling the determination of the believers. Despite the cruelty they faced, the new Muslim community stood together, supporting one another through hardship and loss. Their hope and solidarity could not be extinguished. Mecca itself became a battleground, not of swords and shields, but of ideas, faith, and unwavering conviction. The city's streets were filled with tension, as old loyalties clashed with new beliefs. The city was now divided like never before, and the tension simmered, ready to erupt into a new chapter of history. Omar ibn Al Khattab was Mecca's enforcer, strong, proud, and unyielding. He saw Islam as a threat to everything he valued: tribe, tradition, and honor. Omar's opposition was fierce and public. He persecuted Muslims relentlessly, even beating his own slave girl for her faith. To him, Islam was chaos, tearing families and society apart. His loyalty to the Quraysh blinded him to any other truth. The Quraysh saw him as their champion, the man who could end the rebellion. Omar's hatred was personal, passionate, and absolute. He believed he was saving his people from destruction. This burning fury set the stage for the most pivotal night of his life. Omar was a volcano ready to erupt, and his eruption would change history. In pre-Islamic Arabia, tribe was everything: identity, protection, honor. Omar's pride in the Quraysh ran deep. He saw himself as their guardian. Islam's message of equality threatened to dissolve the old order. The new brotherhood of faith, Arab and non-Arab, rich and poor, master and slave, was revolutionary and dangerous to him. Omar believed Muhammad was asking people to abandon their ancestors and tribe. His rage was fueled by a sense of duty to protect his people's legacy. As persecution failed to stop Islam, Omar's frustration grew. He saw migration to Abyssinia as betrayal. The only solution, he decided, was to eliminate the source, Muhammad himself. Sword in hand, Omar set out to end the Prophet's life. He was driven by loyalty, blinded by tradition. The night of reckoning had begun. Omar marched through Mecca, sword drawn, intent on killing the Prophet. His determination was absolute. Nothing would stop him. But fate intervened. Nu'aym ibn Abdullah, a secret Muslim, crossed his path. Sensing Omar's deadly intent, Nu'aym acted quickly. "Where are you going, Omar?" he asked. "To kill Muhammad, the one dividing our people," Omar replied. Nu'aym, thinking fast, warned, "If you do, the Banu Abd Manaf will never let you live. Why not deal with your own family first?" Omar froze. "Who in my family?" "Your sister Fatima and your brother-in-law Saeed. They've accepted Islam." The target of Omar's rage shifted instantly. Betrayal was now personal. He turned, storming toward his sister's house. The course of history pivoted on a single conversation. Omar's fury now burned for his own family. The anger that once fueled his crusade against the Prophet had turned inward, igniting a storm within his heart. He could hardly believe that the people he loved most, those he had grown up with, laughed with, and protected, had chosen a path he despised. The betrayal felt personal, deeper than any wound inflicted by an enemy. His sister and cousin had embraced the faith he despised. Their quiet devotion, once a source of comfort, now seemed like a silent rebellion. He remembered childhood moments with them, the bonds they shared, and wondered how those ties could be so easily broken by a new belief. The sense of betrayal was overwhelming. His own blood had defied him. It was as if the ground beneath him had shifted, leaving him unsteady and alone. Every memory of family unity now felt tainted by their secret. Abandoning his mission against the Prophet, he marched to Fatima's house, rage intensifying with every step. Each stride echoed with the weight of his disappointment and the sting of humiliation. He was determined to confront them, to demand answers, to reclaim the honor he felt slipping away. The city watched as he stormed through the streets, a man possessed. Whispers followed him. Neighbors peered from behind doors, sensing that something momentous was about to unfold. Omar's reputation for strength and temper preceded him, and now, his anger was on full display. For Omar, this was no longer about tribe or tradition, it was about family honor. The shame he felt was unbearable, and he believed only a dramatic confrontation could restore his pride. His mind raced with questions and accusations, his heart pounding with anticipation and dread. He was a wounded lion, more dangerous than ever. His pain had sharpened his resolve, and his anger had become a weapon. Nothing would stop him from facing those who had betrayed him. As he neared the house, he heard the faint sound of recitation, proof of their betrayal. The sacred words, softly spoken, cut through the night and pierced his heart. It was undeniable now. They had chosen their side. He didn't hesitate. He was ready to confront the traitors within. His hand trembled with rage as he reached for the door, every muscle tense, every thought focused on the confrontation ahead. The quiet home was about to be shattered. The peace inside stood in stark contrast to the storm raging outside, a calm before the inevitable eruption. Omar's anger was at its peak, his face twisted with emotion. He was ready to unleash his fury on those he once cherished. The confrontation would be explosive, words would be hurled like daggers, and the bonds of family would be tested as never before. The moment of truth had arrived. In that charged silence, everything hung in the balance. Faith, loyalty, and the future of a family forever changed. Inside, Fatima, Sa'id, and Khabbab recited the Quran in secret. The verses of Surah Taha filled the room with hope and awe. These words spoke of Moses, faith, and triumph over tyranny, resonating deeply with their struggles. They learned in fear, yet found peace in the divine message. Every sound from outside made their hearts race, but the beauty of the Quran gave them courage. Unaware, they were moments away from a violent interruption. A violent bang shattered the peace. Omar had arrived. Khabbab hid, Fatima concealed the Quran parchments. Omar burst in, demanding answers, his anger barely contained. "What was that sound?" he roared. Fatima and Sa'id tried to deflect, but Omar saw through their denial. "You followed Muhammad!" he accused. Sa'id stood firm. "What if the truth is in a religion other than yours?" That challenge unleashed Omar's fury. He attacked Sa'id. Fatima intervened, and Omar struck her, drawing blood. The sight of his sister's injury gave him pause. Fatima, bloodied but resolute, stood up to him. Her courage was unshakable. The confrontation had reached its breaking point. Silence fell. Omar stared at his wounded sister, shock and shame flickering across his face. Fatima, undaunted, declared, "Yes, we are Muslims. Do what you will." Her defiance stunned him. He expected fear, not faith. Sa'id stood beside her, united in belief. Omar's rage faded, replaced by regret and curiosity. What gave them such courage? He asked quietly, "Give me the scripture, so I may read it." The man who came to kill was now seeking understanding. This was the turning point. The storm of anger had broken. Omar's journey to faith was about to begin.
The sun of Mecca blazed, but a fiercer fire burned in Omar ibn Al Khattab. Sword in hand, Omar strode through the city, determined to end Muhammad's message and restore the old ways. He saw Muhammad as a threat, a poet dividing families and shattering tradition. Each step was fueled by anger and a sense of duty to his ancestors. Suddenly, Nu'aym ibn Abdullah intercepted him, alarmed by Omar's intent. "Where are you going, Omar?" Nu'aym asked. "To silence Muhammad," Omar replied, voice cold. Nu'aym, secretly a Muslim, quickly redirected him. "Shouldn't you deal with your own house first? Your sister Fatima and her husband have joined him." The words struck Omar like a blow, halting him mid-stride. His fury, once aimed at Muhammad, now turned inward, toward his own family. Omar stormed to his sister's house, rage eclipsing reason. He burst inside, finding Fatima, her husband Sa'id, and Khabbab reciting from a hidden scroll. "What was that I heard?" Omar demanded. Sa'id tried to deflect, but Omar's anger exploded. He threw Sa'id to the ground. Fatima intervened, shielding her husband. "Leave him be," she cried. In his fury, Omar struck her. The slap echoed. A line crossed, a sacred bond broken. Silence fell as Fatima's blood marked the cost of his rage. Omar stared, horrified at what he'd done. He had struck his own sister. The room was silent, broken only by Fatima's steady breath. Blood on her lip, she faced Omar with unshakable resolve. "Yes, we are Muslims," she declared. "We believe in Allah and His Messenger. Do what you will." Her courage was a mirror, reflecting his brutality. Omar's shame was crushing. He saw himself not as a protector, but as a tyrant. He expected fear, but found faith. Her conviction was unbreakable, her pain secondary to her belief. The violence had failed. Her spirit stood firm. Omar's certainty crumbled, replaced by confusion and a desperate need to understand. He was disarmed, not by force, but by faith. The world had shifted beneath his feet. Omar's anger faded, replaced by curiosity. What gave his sister such strength? He demanded to see the scroll. "You are unclean," Fatima said. "Only the pure may touch it." Humbled, Omar agreed and washed himself. He returned no longer the enforcer, but a seeker. Fatima handed him the parchment. Omar held it gently, the hands that had struck now trembling. The fate of his soul rested on the words he was about to read. The sword was forgotten. The scroll was everything. He was ready to listen. Omar read the opening verses of Surah Taha. The words were gentle, not a call to arms, but a balm for his soul. They spoke of God's mercy, creation, and the story of Moses. The language was unlike anything he'd known, sublime, profound, undeniable. Omar felt his anger dissolve, replaced by awe. The verses spoke directly to his heart, exposing the emptiness of his old beliefs. He saw himself in Pharaoh's arrogance and in Moses's vulnerability. The words were a gentle rain, softening his hardened heart. He was not being argued with. He was being awakened. The truth was clear, reshaping his reality. The sword had no power here, only the word did. Omar stood transformed, tears in his eyes. The rage and pride that defined him had melted away. "How noble are these words," he whispered, surrendering his old self. He returned the scroll with reverence. No longer the enforcer, he was now a servant of Allah. His mission had changed. He would seek Muhammad not as an enemy, but as a follower. The sword at his side was now meaningless. He had to declare his faith. The journey ahead would define his life. His heart, once stone, now led him forward. Omar left his sister's house transformed. The city was unchanged, but he was not. He walked to the house of Al-Arqam, where the Prophet and his followers gathered. The companions saw him approach, fear gripping them. "It is Omar, and he is armed," someone warned. Hamza stood firm. "Let him in. If he comes in peace, we welcome him. If not, we face him." The Prophet met Omar at the threshold, calm and resolute. "What brings you here, son of Al Khattab?" the Prophet asked. All eyes were on Omar, the man who had come to kill, now standing before the man he sought. The moment was tense, the outcome uncertain. Omar's next words would change everything. Surrounded by those he once persecuted, Omar faced the Prophet. The last of his arrogance vanished, replaced by humility. "O Messenger of God," Omar declared, "I have come to believe in Allah and His Messenger." He spoke the Shahada. "There is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is His Messenger." Relief and joy erupted. "Allahu Akbar," echoing through the house. The enemy had become a brother. The Prophet smiled, welcoming Omar into the fold. The companions embraced him, fear replaced by hope. The Lion of Quraysh was now Islam's protector. The destiny of the faith had changed forever. Omar's story is not about the triumph of the sword, but the victory of the word. He began as an agent of force, believing violence could preserve truth. But violence only caused pain. It could not touch belief. The turning point was not defeat in battle, but the sight of his sister's blood and her unwavering faith. The Quran's words bypassed his pride and anger, reaching his soul. True change, he learned, comes from meaning, not might. The Quran did not argue, it revealed. Omar's heart was transformed by revelation, not coercion. The sword did not change history that day. The word did. Words of truth remain the world's most powerful force for change.